Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and a question that I've been getting a lot lately and that I've just honestly been seeing everywhere lately, is should I come back for 9.2? Now, the reason the question's framed this way is because there's been a lot of positive videos put out, some even by people who are maybe notoriously negative about the game in recent times. There's been positive videos put out, positive things said, positive things written. From people who are positive about WoW, from people who are negative about WoW, and Dragonflight news that has so far been positive. So a lot of people are wondering, should I come back? Should I come back? So in this video, I'm going to kind of try to go through everything about the patch and let you make your own decision, of course, and go through positives and some negatives as well that I have found with the patch. So I am going to start with positive things because I think start on a positive note, then hear the negatives and make a decision. So, one of the best things about 9.2 is that things are not as grindy and they are a bit more streamlined. So, let's say you were coming back to the game, in Shadowlands. So you played 9.0 or 9.1 or both, but you quit during one of those, and now you're wondering if you should come back. So I have to assume at that point you have some sort of renown. You have like 20 renown, 30 renown, maybe even 40 renown, but you have some sort of renown that you're coming back with. If that's the case, then just doing the main story quest should put you at or very close to 80 renown. That's going to Xerath Mortis, doing everything there, maybe doing a couple of your Sanctum things, like just grabbing 1,000 anima, which if you don't know is extremely easy to do now. It takes just maybe like 10 minutes even, like no time. You just kind of do it while you're doing other stuff, and it's easy. So, if you go through and do the main story quest, which of course you need to do to kind of get caught up, that's every MMO. Most games you do have to do the story quest, and so you'll get up to, like I said, close or at 80 renown. You get the achievement renowned. This then unlocks a bunch of quality of life things for alts and stuff like that. If you're coming back on an alt, you can essentially do the same thing. You might have to do a few more of your Covenant Sanctum things, of course, because I don't think Xerath Mortis will give you 80 renown or 79 renown. So you'll have to do some things, of course, in your Sanctum. Some of it's really simple, though. You just get, you get renown just for, like, talking to your new soul binds and stuff like that. And so, and if you do that, you'll get up to 80 renown on your alt, and then be able to give a renown token to your main if he's not at 40 or whatever, or other alts. So it is a pretty streamlined process. Mostly requires you just doing the main story quest, which I think is extremely reasonable in any MMO. Going through the story, is kind of part of the game. So I think that's completely reasonable. It's all streamlined. Then we have Xerath Mortis itself. So Xerath Mortis, once you complete the quest lines there, you'll be at, assuming you didn't do like anything extra, you'll be at about honored, maybe just below. So you might have to do a few world quests, you might have to do a few side quests, but you'll be very close to honored just from doing, again, the main story quest stuff. And once you're honored, you're able to access the memory, or once you're honored, you're able to access conduits that go up to 226. Now, these are not account wide, so the bad thing is on each character you'd have to do this. Now, the 80 renowned will give you a conduit upgrade account wide that's level 200 conduits. So you do start somewhere, but the 226 is locked behind honored. Not the best thing in the world, but it kind of makes sense because it is player power, and they've been, that's kind of their stance now. That they're willing to make more things account wide, but not player power. But the 200 conduits are account wide, so maybe the 226 could have been okay too in that case, since they already kind of broke that rule with the 200 conduits. So once you will have to grind to revered on one character to get the Memory of Unity. This is going to allow you to craft your second legendary on any spot you want. So do you technically have to do this? No, but you would have to finish the story quest on any character to get the free belt. So whether you're on your main, your alt, whatever, you have to finish the story quest. You get a free belt. It's 265 item level. It'll be your Covenant legendary on it, and you'll get that. But if you get to revered, you get a memory that's account wide, and you can craft it anywhere you want. That's what I would recommend doing, is trying to get to revered. That'll obviously take more time and not as streamlined, but it is a quality of life thing. It might not necessarily be a positive, but the fact that it's account wide is a positive. Having to grind to revered might not be a positive because, again, that's not streamlined. I am trying to talk about positives here, though. So the positive part of it is that it is account wide. Other things in Xerath Mortis. Xerath Mortis is actually just a fun zone. Xerath Mortis has a bunch of mounts you can get. Some of them are cool. A lot of them are recolors, but some of them are cool on their base value. So, like, I'm not trying to necessarily, eventually maybe for collecting purposes, but I'm not necessarily trying to get every recolor. I'm just trying to get the ones that I think are kind of neat looking or have cool animations or whatever. And so there's tons of those to get. There's battle pets to get, and there's all kinds of other stuff to get. Cosmic Flux is the currency in the zone, and this is also very plentiful. It will not feel like a grind, really. Just doing the main story quests, you're going to have thousands of this stuff, which is going to allow you to, either craft a legendary or start using the creation catalyst, which is what I'll talk about next. You just still have to craft your legendaries. They still can be a bit expensive. We'll talk about that in the negatives of the patch. But the creation catalyst, which I just mentioned, this is the thing that lets you turn your items into tier. So basically anything you get other than like the Cypher gear, which is in the zone, and I'll talk about the Cypher gear more, that's just gear that you get that kind of levels up as you do more in the zone. Like the new gear is stronger as you level up or as you power yourself up in the zone. And so anything other than that, essentially, you can turn into tier. So you do a heroic dungeon in the dungeon finder, you can turn that into tier. You do a raid, you do a PvP, and you buy a piece of gear with honor or whatever, you can turn that into tier. This costs Cosmic Flux, but it's a fairly low number, and there's tons of Cosmic Flux. And this makes it really easy to get your 4 set. If you're coming back at this point, you'll just be able to do your 4 set. You'll have charges saved up automatically, and you can just automatically get your 4 set and be able to play around with that. That might be one of the reasons you're coming back. So there's no real barrier there. You do have to unlock it. Again, that's just during the main story quest it unlocks, and you need to do the main story quest anyways. So you have the creation catalyst, which will again allow you to have a 4 set pretty darn quickly. You just have to get hands, helm, chest, legs. What am I missing? Shoulders. Get 4 of those items, whether again from any content that you do, including Sandworn relics, which drop in the Xerath Mortis zone. That is a special type of gear that can be used for tier as well. So, and you can actually target those items too. So you can get tier set that way really quickly. So that's another positive thing. Another little positive thing is the new Torghast mode. That's like a boss run is actually quite good. This came out in 9.2 as well. It's actually quite fun to do. You will need some sort of gear to do it. It's because it is like an end game thing to do. It's just like a solo end game thing to do. And it is quite fun. It is quite good. It is quite challenging, honestly, as well, especially for certain classes, certain specs, a lot more challenging than others. But it will take some gear to do that. I mentioned gear in the zone. So if you are just a casual player, you're not really planning on doing anything else, you can eventually get your tier set with the Sandworn relics that drop in the zone from a vendor that drops those. And also you will just naturally acquire this Cypher gear. Now, as you get more and more relics of the first ones, I believe is the currency that drops. It drops in chests just with Cosmic Flux. Basically everything gives you Cypher of the first ones, everything that you do in the zone will. And you'll see what this is in the main story quest, but you'll have like a little thing you can empower, and as you empower that more, the Cypher gear gets stronger. So it starts at 233, ends at 252. You cannot turn this into tier set, but you could basically have full 252 gear just by doing the zone and nothing else. Obviously, if you craft a legendary, you can have higher item level there. If you buy a crafted item, you can have higher item level there and whatnot, whatever BOEs or whatever. So you can get higher than that casually, but just naturally you could have 252 gear essentially from the Cypher equipment. So these are all positive things. It's very streamlined. It's not super grindy, especially for a main character. We will talk a little bit about how some things are not account wide for the negatives. But streamlined, everything's pretty much easy to do. It's pretty quick as well. The main story quest isn't punishing by any means. You are doing it, if you're coming back now, you're doing it all at once instead of time gated. How, those of us who remained playing the game, we're kind of time gated in doing it. So you'll have it all available at once. So it might feel like a little bit much. but it's honestly not that many quests for the main story quest. You can do it all in one sitting for sure. Like if a sitting for you is like up to 2 hours or whatever, you could probably get it done in that time if that's what you're trying to do, and focused on doing that, then you could probably get that done. So again, pretty quick, pretty fun. The raid is actually quite good. There was some talk of the raid not being good by certain people at the beginning of the tier. The raid is very, very good. So if you are capable of doing normal or heroic, I'd highly advise it. It's quite fun. But you can also just do it in LFR and experience it as well and get to see some of the cool stuff. Obviously at a different level and a different tuning and stuff, but you can still kind of get the general idea of the raid, which is quite good. I think Mythic Plus is quite fun this season. I'm not a huge Mythic Plus guy. This is probably the only season I have ever said that for, going back to Legion. I'm not a huge Mythic Plus guy at all. I think the encrypted affix is really fun and allows you to play the dungeons very differently. Now, to get the encrypted affix, you have to be doing at least plus 10s, which not everyone wants to do or can do. But otherwise, it's not. It's just going to be the same old stuff to you because it's the same affixes, it's the same dungeons. So unless you're getting the seasonal affix encrypted, then you'll probably just feel the same way that you ever felt. But if you do 10s or higher, again, this can be quite fun, especially if you have a tank or you are the tank and you look up how to do woe relics. It can be quite fun for you. So that's a positive as well. I would say the PvE endgame is quite good. The casual experience in Xerath Mortis is quite good, and being on a main character only is quite good. Alts are better now, but we'll talk about a couple of negative things up here next that can happen for alts. So let's talk about the negatives. The negatives for 9.2 are, number one, you do have to get to 80 renown to unlock anything for your alts, right? So if you're a multiple character player, you want to come back, but you don't want to just play one character, you do have to get to the 80 renown first before you can do that. It's not hard to do, but you do have to do it, and you do naturally do it through the main story quest like I talked about. But that can be a negative for some people, especially if you want to like hop around between characters. You have two characters at 60 renown, but neither of them are at 80. That can feel a little bit rough too if that's how you play. So the account-wide stuff I think should be, in my opinion, should be a little bit more accessible than what it is. And I also think that there should be an 80 renown catch-up token as well. So like once you get to 80 renown on a character, I think you should just automatically be able to get up to 80 on other characters as well. I mentioned some stuff is still rep locked in Xerath Mortis. So this includes the Unity memory, which allows you to craft your Covenant Legendary on any slot, and it's called Unity. So that is rep gated, and we also have it's account wide, which was the positive part of it, but rep gated is the negative part about it. We have conduit upgrades, which are rep gated, which means you have to kind of grind the zone more than just the honored, than just the story quest, which unlocks the creation catalyst. You have to grind that stuff. And then there is the currency Cosmic Flux. I've seen some people complain about this, but this stuff is extremely plentiful. I don't always think it's needed to have like this weird currency to do everything. It kind of makes sense in a way because it's just kind of how MMOs work, right? If you think about Lost Ark or Final Fantasy, I mean, there's all kinds of different currencies and stuff. So I guess it makes sense. I don't know if it's really a negative or not, but some people don't like having to do a bunch of currencies and stuff. So I would see that why someone might think that's a negative. It is pretty plentiful too, which I mentioned in the positives, but it is another currency that you have to get. There isn't a ton more negatives other than that. So there's a couple things rep gated, and there's the whole renown thing that you may not like doing. Again, you just have to do it on one character essentially, but then, like I said, there's not an 80 catch-up token, so you're only at 40 on the catch-up token, so that could be a negative as well. Not wanting to farm your renown twice, I think is totally reasonable, honestly. So I totally get that if you view that as a negative, which is why I included it. And then I would say the PvP. So competitive PvP is not in a great state right now. A lot of people meme around that it's just a mini game in WoW. And I kind of agree with that. And it's not in its best state right now. Now, if you are just doing like random battlegrounds or something and you're playing on one of the strong classes, which there's a lot of strong classes, then you could have plenty of fun in like a random battleground right now. That's not an issue. It's if you're doing arena or rated battlegrounds, those can be a little bit rough right now. Even if you find good partners and stuff. There's some imbalance and stuff going on. That's not the funnest or the most fun thing to deal with. So I'd say that rated PvP is not in a great state. Just to do a little bit of a recap, I suppose. The good things about 9.2 are very streamlined, not super grindy, very easy access to the fun stuff like the tier sets and stuff like that. Very easy access there. You don't have to like kill yourself to just have a little bit of fun with the game. Good PvE end game, and a really solid zone in Xerath Mortis with a lot to do in it if you choose to, because it's not grindy, so you don't really have to do a ton there other than get revered if you want your Unity memory. So that is the grindy part. Honored to revered is a grindy part. So that does matter essentially. So it's worth pointing out. So those are all the positives. So they're mostly positives. Negatives are, while there is account-wide stuff, it might not go far enough. There is some rep stuff, which I just mentioned, that might go too far, where, having to get revered to have fun with your double legendary can be too far. And then the competitive PvP scene is not in a great state by most people's accounts. So that's about it as far as like the facts go, or the mostly considered facts opinions by a lot of people go. Lastly, my opinion on it is I think the 9.2 is a really good patch. I'm being really honest with you here. I'm not a WoW Andy by any means, even though I love World of Warcraft. 9.1 wasn't the greatest, and I played a lot of one of my other favorite games during 9.1. My taste might not like, you might not like my taste, but I played a lot of Fallout 76 during 9.1, had a lot of fun with it, honestly, and I didn't play 9.1 that much other than raid logging. 9.2 is completely different, where I'm playing WoW just for fun, and that's always a good thing. So for me, I would advise, it's probably worth coming back. If you like any of the stuff I was talking about, it's probably worth coming back for. In Dragonflight, there's looks like a ton of positives there, so maybe you want to hold off, see some Dragonflight, alpha, beta, and then maybe come back for Dragonflight instead. Maybe you feel like you're just too far behind for 9.2. But the game is definitely trending in a really good direction right now. That doesn't mean it'll continue to trend in that direction, but as of now, as I'm making this video, the game's in a good place and trending upward, which is good. If you care about the game, if you like the game, it's going in a good direction. So that's it for this one, guys. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.